In 1999, I was wrapping up my master's degree in direct marketing at NYU. And a professor that I really admired, Professor Mitchell Orphis, told a story. And it blew my mind. And I really want to share it with you all here today so that we can help the discussion around marketing and really better understand exactly what marketing is, because I think today AI conflates some messages. And we were discussing direct mail. So Professor Orphis told a story saying that if you sent a postcard to somebody as a direct mail piece and it spoke about you and your business and how great your business was, the person on the receiving end of that postcard probably rip it up and throw it in the garbage. However, if you sent that same person a tome, you guys know what a tome is? A tome is like a massive book, like if you see in libraries, like flip them to open them, and they're completely huge. If you sent them one of those and there was a note on the outside of that tome and it said, I interviewed everyone that you know in your life and asked them to tell us about you, the person on the receiving end would probably read that tome from front to back in one day. Maybe not a day. It's a tome. It's big. But they would absolutely, unequivocally, no matter what, end up reading all of that content. And I want us to get our minds in that perspective, that when we think about marketing isn't your logo. It's not your brand. It's not the color scheme that you're using. It's not your website. It's not even your TikTok cadence. It's not the AI that you're using or your tech stack. That marketing is about making people take action. So if we think about that person that was on the receiving end and we sent them that postcard that talked about our business, they ripped it up and they threw it out. But when we sent them something that meant something to them and piqued their curiosity and was something of value to them that they perhaps didn't even know that they valued, that's real marketing at an elite level. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about what marketing really is. And that's number one. Marketing is about making people take action. So how do we make them do that? How do we make them buy? How do we make them click? How do we make them engage with our brand and eventually spend money? Right? That's what we absolutely want them to do. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the action, and then we're going to talk about the outcome. And I think that people get confused with this one as well. So for example, if you own, maybe, what do? You do car detailing. You're not going to talk about the manner with which you do said detailing. You are going to talk about the outcome. You are going to talk about the fact that their car will look and smell the same way it did the day that it rolled off the factory floor. That when people see them drive it into the driveway, it'll look like a brand new car. The feeling around that. They don't care about the tools that you use to detail the car. They don't care about, how you're going to go about doing it. You want the outcome. So for me, I'm not selling, 10 hours of coaching. I'm selling the outcome. So I'm selling you clarity in your business for X amount of time, and you'll have X amount of results by this time next year. See the difference? It's an outcome discussion. It's not a tactical, this is the thing that you're going to get discussion. So we're going to talk action, outcome. Those are the first two aspects that I want to discuss with you guys. And then we're going to talk about attention. And Now I want to talk about attention. And I don't think it's exactly what people think attention is. Attention is not shouting at a camera. Attention is not, showing your backside and selling yourself out. Attention is a hook. Attention is the bold claim or the emotion behind those outcomes that you were discussing. It is disrupting the manner with which they are usually accustomed to being spoken to. So we'll go back to the first example. Postcard in the mail, they get thousands of them. A tome in the mail, that's something that's unique. So that's going to be getting their attention, right? Those three things. So if we're looking at, we want them to take action. Oh, my doggy is barking. I wonder why he's upset. He might be happy. When we're thinking about action, outcomes, and attention, and the tome or the postcard going to the tome, we as marketers can't do any of that unless we do step one. And step one is understanding who you're selling to. And I see so many people get really, my stomach just growled. I see so many people get confused by this and spun out by this. And it used to be shocking to me, but I think that the speed that we're all moving, it doesn't surprise me, because you didn't know this, but CMOs have the shortest tenure of any C-suite executive. People get impatient. Everybody thinks that they can market their business. Everybody thinks that they're a master marketer, and they're not. But the first thing that you should be doing is researching. Who am I marketing to? If you don't understand who you're marketing to, none of this will work. You won't be able to talk about, you won't be able to make them take action. You won't be able to discuss outcomes, and you won't be able to create a hook that matters for them because you don't know who they are. Now imagine if you don't know who that person is, and you send the postcard and then the tome. What's that tome going to be about? All the people that we could potentially help. This is what everybody said about them. That makes no sense. Doesn't click. Doesn't work. Won't work. Will never work. So first step, take a step back, take a breath, research, review your Google Analytics, look at the demographics. There are AI tools out there that help with this, and I've discussed them before. I think one of them is called Delve AI, but you don't need to do that. You can create an internal avatar based on interaction, who spent the most money with you, who's got the greatest lifetime value, perhaps, who's been the cheapest to acquire but spent the most. Those individuals make up an avatar and will make up your guiding light for all of your marketing activity. Because once you understand who that person is, you can then meet them where they live. You can understand, are they on TikTok, or are they on Snap, or are they solely on LinkedIn? And if they are on LinkedIn, how are they interacting on LinkedIn? And what are the things that they're interacting with? Who are they interacting with? And it always reminds me of something that I learned back in 1998, 97, 98, 99, NYU, were the things referring to network neighbors, that sometimes we get confused by thinking about a demographic. We're like, oh, my client is, 55 to 65 and da 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 da. That's a problem. And sometimes data confuses us. Data is good. It's a great starting point, but you should also be talking to your people and understanding who they're interacting with, who's calling, with the customer service interactions are they having, because you'll have something called a network neighbor. So that 55 to 65-year-old person may have the same activities and interaction as a 16-year-old on the opposite side of the country. If you think about it this way, like sports fans, right? You might have a 50-year-old fanatical New York Yankee fan, and the number of games that I go to and the amount of money that I spend might be the same exact of a 22-year-old that lives in Los Angeles that is a Yankee fan as well. And you see how the data can confuse you, where, oh, our avatar is 22. Our avatar is 50. There's psychographics, there's infographics, it goes a lot deeper than that. So let's talk, we're going to keep going through this, but I do think the hooks matter, but you can't create a good hook unless you know who you're talking to. Making your potential client take action matters, but you can't make them take action unless you know who you're talking to. Get the idea? So I think another point that people mess up is they talk about traffic and driving traffic to their website or to their social places or wherever it is that you guys feel is your core marketing ecosystem, getting people to sign up and lead magnets and all that jazz. And that's great. But I think trust is greater than traffic. And I also think that you don't build trust unless you have truth in your content. And that takes time, that takes effort, that takes consistency. And I also think that's why a lot of the C-suite marketing executives get booted, because they're not allowed the runway to do appropriate and impactful marketing and have an impact on the individuals that they're working with and that they're engaging with. So when you're being tasked with building trust, and the only way that you can build trust is by showing up in their feed consistently and sharing information, or showing up and having high quality interactions with your customers, then you're never going to get to that trust point, and you're never going to be able to have a true emotional connection. And that's the next part. The next part is there has to be an emotional connection. So again, back to the first example, that person gets a postcard or they get a tome where you've interviewed people that have told you about how they feel about that person. Like, you could feel that emotion. I bet when I said it, everybody's like, oh man, I would love to read that, or oh, I'd be terrified to read that, or there's like 5 people I'd really be interested to figure out what it is that they said. So you can't have that emotional connection unless there is trust. So you can't get their attention. You can't have that call to action, that hook. You can't have any of this unless you understand who you're marketing to, what makes them tick, how they've interacted with your brand or other brands, or the things that they aspire to or are interested in, and then evoking emotion through that. And this is why marketing is so gosh darn difficult, and why all the quick fixes don't work. And it also leads to why I get a little frustrated with AI, which is why my workshops are 90 days, because there's so many AI tools out there. And I just posted this on LinkedIn. Today's July 25th, Friday, July 25th. And I just posted this on LinkedIn where I get annoyed when people are like, comment rocket ship and I'll send you this AI agent that I built, and people are chasing it. And I fall guilt prey to it as well. I get intrigued by the tool and I'm like, ooh, shiny object, let me see. But the shiny objects will only amplify the things that you're doing. And if you aren't doing the blocking and tackling of marketing, understanding who you're marketing to, understanding that you need to build trust with whoever it is that you're marketing to, understanding that you need to be a storyteller in order to evoke emotion from who you're telling that story to, that all of these tools will only accelerate those connections, but it could mess up all of that work that you've done in the past. It can mess up trust. It could evoke the wrong emotion. It could inflate and dilute everything that you've done with your brand. And again, your brand isn't your logo and your color scheme and all that stuff. But if you don't take all of those steps and you just start pushing junk out, you're losing people's trust. And again, I'm not saying this because I'm perfect. I'm saying this because I've done it and I've felt the awful repercussions of feeling like you've betrayed people's trust by accident. And pretty specifically, I'm referring to like spray and pray emails. And if you're not properly getting people's opt-ins, I'm always like, oh, I got to get that information out there. And then you do that and people are like angry that you emailed them, rightfully so. So if you're not following all the blocking and tackling along that path so you can kind of get up the mountain and continue to go, then you'll be in trouble. So the other final part that I'll talk about is try to be clear, not clever. And this is something that I learned a while ago. I had a column for Inc. magazine, and I was super excited to start writing with them. And they were really smart where they pair you up with an editor. And the editor, my editor at Inc., helped me learn how to write for the internet. And I felt like I'd been lied to my whole life, like AP English courses, and trying to use big words and sound so sophisticated and so smart. And simple is hard. Simple is hard, right? And what I mean by that is try to use words at a lower reading level. I can't even speak. A lower reading level. I started using something called Hemingway app. Pretty sure it's still out there. They called it Hemingway app because apparently Hemingway wrote The Old Man and the Sea at a 4th grade reading level. I think the New York Times and Wall Street Journal are like 7th or 8th grade reading levels. And the challenge for you then is to make words smaller and increase the clarity of your message. That is very, 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 very difficult. So when it comes to like a personal brand, and I've talked about this in other videos, my umbrella statement is that I help individuals, entrepreneurs, and businesses leverage AI so that they could generate more income. Period. And all of the tools in my tool chest all converge on that one specific thing. So if you run that car wash or that detailing company, everything that you do is about the result, not the tactical stuff, not how did you get there. It's all about the result. And everything that you do is the result. And my sales teams that I've managed in the past, it's the concept that a compass is better than a map. Meaning, if everybody knows where you're headed, how you get there doesn't matter, but you always need to know where you're headed or you're going to get lost. And if you have a map and your head is down and you're this way, then that way, then this way, you're going to end up going in circles. But the compass allows for you to have the freedom to get there eventually, but everybody to understand where you're going. So if you are, and then I always used to say, be rigid in the vision, that location, but flexible in the execution to get there. And as long as you keep those basic tenets in mind, you're going to be in a good spot. So let's go through it one final time. I'm going to try and write these out. So my trusty whiteboard. I love whiteboards. So number 1 is action. And I think people get confused by that, right? Your goal as a marketer is to have people take action. Number 1. Number 2 is the outcome. So car detailing, pristine brand new car, smells like new, feels like new. Everything is new. We don't care about the tactical step-by-step way that you get there. Again, I alluded to, me doing executive coaching or things of that nature. You're not going to be talking about tactically how you get there. You're going to be talking about the transformation that your client will receive by interacting with you, right? Here's the thing that I have. Here's how I'm going to transform your life this time next month. People can envision it in their mind. They can feel it emotionally. And then they can connect with you. And if you deliver on that and you're good at it, that builds trust. So then you get testimonials and you're able to put it out to the world. If you notice on my 90-day workshop landing page, it's a quote from Gary Vaynerchuk. It says, 1 15-minute meeting with Chris made me millions. It's pretty good. So when you do good work and you get people to give testimonials, it's not an exact quote from Gary. I kind of extracted it, but it is what happened. So, number 3, attention. So, you want to get people's attention after, it's a call to action. You want to give them that lovely outcome. And then What does that say? Attention entry. Hold, please. Yeah. So if you don't get somebody's attention, and you don't get them to stop in their tracks, you're in trouble. So we think about the tome, that big thing that's being sent in the mail. That's tremendous. When I was starting out in sales, 2000, I remember I was at Mediaplex and we were talking about Brian Poley. Great guy. Brian, if you see this, how you doing, buddy? Brian was an excellent leader, phenomenal salesperson at Mediaplex. And we talked about like creative ways to get people's attention as salespeople. And one of the tactics that an agency used was they mailed as a direct mail piece 2x4s. And it was kind of like, hey, do we have to hit you over the head with this 2x4 in order to get your attention? So you see how that works. But if they haven't done all the legwork first, all the things like, okay, the action, the outcome, then you get somebody's attention. None of that works unless you've done the research and you understand who you're marketing to. You know, if you send a 2x4 to a 90-year-old woman and you're trying to sell a knitting course, probably not going to work. She's going to be like, why did this person send me a 2x4? So you got to understand who you're marketing to. Okay. Number 4, trust. And I think trust is a big one that people forget, but I think that is only born from consistency. If you do the thing that you're talking about for a long time, you do it well, people are going to trust you. If you have only been doing it for a short time, my recommendation is to do this. Get out there, start publishing videos and show people how good you are at the thing that you're trying to market or sell. And that will eventually build trust. If you are consistent in social places so that people see your face associated with your expertise, you're going to do well. It's kind of like, I don't think I play guitar and I don't necessarily need to be a rock star, but if I were trying to be a rock star and I wasn't 50 years old and I was, younger and better looking and ready to become a rock star, what I would do is I would probably post a cover every day on YouTube. And so Monday, cover song, Tuesday, cover song, Wednesday, cover song, Thursday, cover song, Friday, might do an original, Saturday, cover song, Sunday, cover song. Get the idea? So now all of a sudden, you've got all of these things happening, right? People are taking action. They understand the outcome. Wow, this is really great music. You're getting people's attention and trust. There's that consistency. So like, oh, I trust that this person is really great. And that's how you demonstrate your skill set, is to be able to put that out into the world consistently. No matter what you're selling, you could be a small business, doesn't really matter. Tiniest businesses can do all of these things. So once you're getting trust, you want to evoke emotion. Really, the only way that you're going to evoke emotion is if you tell stories. And this is where storytelling is absolutely critical. If you're a dud at telling stories, learn how to tell a good story. And the way that I end up learning about how to evoke emotion is by telling my own story, right? So we won't get ahead of it, but the 6th step is that data. And we don't want to lose ourselves in the data. But 7th is your story. And then 8th was clear, not clever, right? So you can't evoke emotion if you're only looking at the data. And if the data is telling you what you know is not exactly correct, you can then take 10 steps back and tell your own story. Your story is always going to evoke emotion, always, no matter what. Why? Because you're a human being and you experienced it. And maybe it's the genesis of your small business. Maybe you own a laundromat, but you talk about how maybe you watch an online course about how to invest in boring businesses. Was it Corey Sanchez? She's great. I love her, admire her. She's brilliant. And she's getting a lot of Americans to do really cool things as an entrepreneur. And maybe you figured out that journey that you don't want to be sitting in a cube all day, but you want to be a business owner and you want to have equity in all of that and you want to contribute to society. That's your genesis story, evokes emotion. Oh, wow. This guy was a or gal was an executive. They were bored out of their minds. They wanted to bring some, work in their community. They took this, Cody Sanchez's course, and they approached the boomer that was retiring at a laundromat and did a seller-funded acquisition. Over the course of time, you paid back that boomer, and the relationship with the boomer was really wonderful, and you learned so many great things. You see how these stories evoke emotion. Everybody's got a story, and it always evokes emotion. And you got to ignore some of the data when it comes to that. Even though everybody wants to hear that you're a data-driven marketer and a data-driven salesperson. Yes, data can inform, but it does not trump all the other information. It doesn't negate any of the qualitative gut feel that you have, because it just is. Because, I don't know, it just is. And your story is critical. And we have to work on being clear and not clever. I fall prey to this all the time. I'm always trying to get the right title and the right thumbnail and the right, all that jazz. And it's a struggle to keep my monkey brain from just saying, hey, just get on camera and talk about what you know. Nobody else has that story. There was a handful of people in that classroom in 98 or 99 at 11 West 42nd Street working on their master's degree in direct and interactive marketing with Mitchell Orphis telling that story about a postcard or a tome. And I think if you keep that in your mind, it'll help you, keep you on rails to guide your marketing. And you don't have to spend $1 million on an agency, and you don't have to hire somebody internally. You can sit back, follow these steps. Remember that you're trying to make somebody take action. Only talk about the outcome. Very difficult. We're very narcissistic. We want to talk about how we get there. Isn't that exciting? My car detailing service, we use this product, that product. They don't care. They want the outcome. Get attention. Don't do stupid things to get attention, but get attention by crafting an appropriate hook that discusses how to take action and what the outcome is going to be. You can only do that if you've conducted research and you know who that client is. And then you can build trust. And then you can evoke emotion. And then you can look at the data, kind of ignore some of the data, and you tell your story, and you get clear, not clever. And then you are off to the races. I love whiteboards. Hope you enjoyed that, gang. I know that I did. I love that I'm doing videos this way because I really don't like editing. And this is my brain. You didn't like it, sorry. That's what I know. That's what's rattling around in there. It's Friday afternoon. Have a lovely weekend, everyone, and keep up the good work. Oh, if you have a business and you want me to audit it, just like I did here, drop the name of your business in the comments and I'll do it next video. And if you can tell me why I say keep up the good work at the end of my emails and the end of my videos, then we should meet. I think I might have something special for you. Cool. Bye.